All right, welcome to Meet the Marketer. And today I am excited to have Chris Torres with us because Chris Torres is a legend in the field. He's been at this for a long time, and I'm excited to get to know more about tourism marketing agency and also the man behind the agency. So Chris, really excited to have you here. Thanks.
No, I really do appreciate you asking me along. So thank you, Mitch. I'm a big fan of yours as well.
Yeah, of course. So let's begin with the agency, TMA, Tourism Marketing Agency. Can you just give us a history of the agency, of what TMA is?
Yeah, so we actually started up around 14 years ago. In fact, it'll be 14 years on the 1st of February 2021. And back then we were called Senshi Digital. I'm a big fan of Japanese culture, love the country, love everything about it, the history and everything else. So I had a very much a Japanese theme. And we did a lot of tourism websites, as well as a marketing side as well. But the tour sites was a big part of our business. But then around 5 years ago, we decided to sell that side of the business off, actually to Palaces, who own Tour CMS. We did a lot of work with that platform. So we sold the business off to them. They took over the web staff, and then we changed our name to Tourism Marketing Agency. It pretty much says what we do on the tin, as the advert says. So through that, through that whole period, we've been working with tourism from day dot, really. Our very first client was a client called Max Adventure here in Scotland, who was one guy behind his desk in Glasgow, and now he's a multi-million-pound business, employing 60, 70 staff. So, but that's what really got us into tourism and got us into the tourism activities, and it sort of snowballed from there. But so yeah, it was 14 years ago we actually started up TMA.
Interesting. I didn't know the Japanese theme of your first iteration of the company.
Yeah. So I've been to Japan, fell in love with the place, and yeah, ever since then, it's sort of even since I was a kid, I've always loved that the country and the history. And yeah, the theme was Japanese. So we had a lot of Japanese graphics and little figures and everything else that was going out to our clients and everything else. But yeah, then we changed.
I love it. Who are you? I mean, what were you doing before you got into tourism marketing, and what's your story?
How long have you got? Sort of left school at 16, didn't go to university or college. It just wasn't for me. And started my first sort of job doing illustrations. I used to be a really good drawer. I haven't done so much now in terms of artwork, but used to be really good at line drawing. And I get picked up at a college to actually work to do graphics for kids' educational books. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and then from there I started going into design houses, design companies, and eventually just learning my trade throughout the years. So everything that I do is all self-taught, even for TMA, I do everything through that. And yeah, so it's been a bit of a journey in various different agencies. I've managed to work with some big brands in terms of helping them with their campaigns, like Coca-Cola and Nissan and Fiat and things like that as well. So so that sort of helped me learn the trade along the way. We did work in some tourism businesses, mostly things like distilleries and that type of thing throughout that time. Being in Scotland, we're full of distilleries. And then decided that one of the companies I was working for, we were pretty much running that company. The bosses that we had at the time were hardly ever there. And I decided to say, well, why are we doing this for them? Why don't we do it ourselves? So it was me and my then business partner. We set up, I worked for a good 6 months prior, basically raising funds, doing a little bit of freelance work here and there. And once we had about 6 months worth of funds, we left the company and started up then Senshi, but TMA. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, but like I said, it's working with various brands all over the world, and it's been great. So just learning as I go. So
Interesting. I mean, there's a real sense in which sometimes when you're self-taught, you always have a question of, should I have gone to school? But on the other side, too much theory blinds you from what works in practice. And so it's a big asset to be so practically focused. But as you said, it's been a journey. How has your practice as an agency sort of evolved as you've watched the industry change?
Oh, it's evolved a lot. Like I say, we used to do the website side of things. We had a very sort of web focus that just had SEO and a bit of marketing on the side. And then that's what, sort of 5 years ago, that switched around completely. No, it was all marketing and less web. Because we could see where web was going. We could see, a lot of the booking platforms offering free websites. There's so many good WordPress templates out there you can get for $70, that type of thing. So we decided the bespoke side of the websites is few and far between. We work with big companies. We did the websites for Greyline and a lot of other massive companies, and we just decided, that's enough's enough. So but seeing the industry evolve over the years as well. A lot of the work we did was with Tours initially. So it was Alex Bainbridge, who really got us into this sector. I've got to big up him, and being able to sort of see it from the early stages when Tours and Activities was only just starting to get into the online booking and everything else, and starting to really get into the marketing, and being along that whole journey with them as well, and how that's evolved, how social media has evolved. We've had to adapt to various things, with Facebook and Google Ads and the way all that's evolved. So it's, I'm lucky enough to have a really good team around me, all throughout that period, even now, more so, that we can help a lot of our clients. So, but yeah, it's evolved massively. At the end of the day, it's marketing doesn't really change, whether it's offline, online. It's how you market yourself in terms of your voice, your how you look, how you conduct yourself online, your messaging you put out there. That always stays pretty much the same. It's just the platforms and the methods that you put out there really changes. So it's just adapting to them, really.
You bring up two interesting things. We'll get to booking software in a minute, since you brought it up. But first, I'm really interested in the question of what makes you unique as a marketing agency. And the background of this question is that there's a bunch of you out there, and you're right that the basic fundamentals of marketing are the same. Know your customer, sell to them in a way that's personal. What makes what TMA is doing unique or special?
It's a very good question. And this is a question I always say to my clients. This is what you should have.
I know, I'm excited that I get to flip the script and ask the marketer.
No, I hate to say, obviously, we were actually probably one of the first tours and activities sort of marketing agencies out there, starting up 14 years ago. And it's just the amount of knowledge and experience that we've gained throughout that whole time. We've worked with a load of different tour operators over that time. I've got a great team who does a lot of research behind us in terms of what's happening in the industry, their customers and everything else. And ultimately, we're a small team. There only is 6 or 7 of us. And I think that's what is unique in terms of a lot of other companies out there who have a lot more staff. We can be a lot more personal. If a client comes to us, if they want to speak to Danny, who does our research, they'll speak to Danny. If they want to speak to Cameron, who does our PPC, they'll speak to Cameron. It's not, you do have an account manager, but you get to speak to the people who matter about your business, and they grow with you. We don't, I hate to use the word client because we don't see them as clients. It's more partners and being part of our family and helping them grow, because ultimately, if they grow, we grow. We get good feedback on that and everything else. So we try to do everything we can to help them. So in terms of uniqueness, every marketing agency is similar, but I think because of the amount of content we put out there, especially myself, and the knowledge that we have, I don't know of any other marketing agency in this space who puts out as much content as I do, to be honest, and really dives into all the different aspects of it. And I think, if anything, that's what makes us unique compared to some others.
Yeah, if you weren't going to bring that up, I was going to answer that for you, because I think it is true. And probably the number one thing that gets mentioned on Facebook groups and even people that I know is your book, Lookers into Bookers. And I'm interested in how that came about, writing something like that, because obviously that gives away so much crucial and important information. One would think that a marketing agency would guard some of that in order to, get them as customers. I'm really interested in your philosophy behind putting that out there in the industry and what that's done for you.
Yeah, another good question. That book was released nearly 2 years ago now. But even before that, I was putting out lots of free content through the podcast, through my blogs and everything else. And I'm very much in the camp of helping the industry as a whole, helping people understand what marketing is all about. There's too many suits out there and other agencies who say one thing, but they actually do another. And I've worked in a few agencies before I started up TMA, where a client is just another number. It's just another revenue generator. Whereas I set up this company to be something completely different. And it is about putting out as much free content out there to say to people, look, you can do this yourself if you have time, if you have the inclination to do it, and the know-how. It can be done, but obviously an expert is going to do it quicker for you and hopefully more effective for you until you do have time to learn it. And if anything else, it gives people an indication of what things mean or how things work, so they don't have the wool pulled over their eyes. I actually did a video on this a few months back, but I hate to see agencies when they say they'll guarantee bookings. No one can guarantee bookings. And I say that to clients, up front. I always say, no, we're not in charge of your website. We're not in charge of your sales processes. No, we're not in charge of how you conduct yourself in front of customers, everything. There's only so much that an agency can do. What we can do is guarantee you targeted leads from what you're trying to achieve. But no one should be able to guarantee bookings. And it's just really being honest and upfront with people and saying, look, this is what you should expect. This is what you should expect from an agency, what they should be doing for you. And we're always being very upfront on what we do and how and what we'll be looking to achieve for clients. And I think, again, that's what sets us apart from a lot of others.
We at TripSchool here work with a lot of early stage businesses, brand new tour operators or operators that are just getting off the ground. What, if any, kind of advice or strategy would you recommend to an early stage business in terms of focusing their energy? I know there's a lot of discussion on booking software, a lot of discussion on PPC or Facebook ads. What's your advice for those early guys?
It's a very good question. Basically, what I tell people and tell clients is, look at what I've done for myself in terms of my own agency. So 4 years ago, I made the conscious decision to put out lots of free content through the book, through the podcast, everything else. Yes, that does take time and takes time to build up. It's building up your brand, whether it's a personal brand or the business's brand. But in the long run, it really helps you massively. Yes, you have to do things like Facebook advertising, things like that to get you instant traffic, hopefully instant leads and bookings and everything else. And that will help you in that regard. And that side of it should always be done. But no, what I say is, look, 4 years down the line now, after all this hard work I'm doing and I'm still doing, is about 95% of the leads I get or the inquiries that we get is all through that content. No, we hardly spend any money on paid advertising. And the old cliche is content is king. No, the more content you can put out there, it's meaningful and engaging and helps people, the better. I'm very much in the camp of give, and then ask when it comes to marketing. Very much like Gary Vaynerchuk, the sort of philosophy he has. So that's the way I sort of say to customers and clients to say, well, do that. But in the meantime, put out lots of video. Video is huge. Just get video out there. Don't be shy. And then Facebook advertising, which is the cheapest form of marketing out there in terms of paid ads. Do those two, do them well, and you will get traction from it.
I couldn't agree more. I often use the metaphor of just building more doors into your house. The more content you give away, each of those is a door that somebody might walk through. And then once they're in your house, then you can entertain them and generate leads. And for me, the quality of the lead is way more important than the numbers. Having an email list of 500,000 people doesn't mean anything if none of them click on anything or are connecting with you. And so the quality of that. What are some of the ways in which an operator can focus on that quality versus just hoping that they get somebody clicking on something that they put out there? How do you develop those kinds of relationships when it is essentially a cold call kind of business?
Yeah, no, I hate to use the word funnel because it's a word I detest. I'm going to actually use journey, a customer journey. Oh, that's better. No, when we do Facebook advertising or do content, it's all about taking your customer along that journey. So what tends to happen with operators is if they're doing their own Facebook advertising, they'll put out some ads about selling a product, but that's not really going to work on a platform like Facebook. Google PPC, maybe a little bit more because people are actively searching for something and it's maybe something that they're more in a stage to buy at that stage. Whereas in Facebook, it's more about brand building. So it's all about letting people know who you are, letting people know that you exist, building up that trust with that customer. And all that happens is with the content. So when we do any Facebook advertising, the first stages of those ads are content or videos. There's no selling pretty much whatsoever. There might be the odd little small call to action, but it's all about offering good advice, a travel guide or a downloadable PDF or whatever that would be. And then depending on how the customer interacts with that content, it's serving them different ads, again, taking them down that journey, still not overly selling. And then when they're ready, they'll come back, they'll remember you, they'll maybe get an email one day from an automated email series, and then they'll click a link which lets them go off and then buy a product or whatever. So it's really about building up that trust in your customers, because no one will buy from you unless they trust you, and you have to build that up first, and build up that brand awareness first before you even think about selling a product.
Right. We're recording this during COVID-19. Hopefully at some point in the future, this video exists in a post-COVID world. But I'm interested, for those operators who aren't necessarily operating anything anytime soon, a lot are in kind of hibernation. What are some of the strategies that you're using or that you could recommend for just maintaining those relationships with existing customers, or putting something out there to attract new people, even when they're not going to be booking a tour in 2 days with you?
Yeah, again, putting out content about yourself and your team. Getting videos out there, your tour guides, getting them to create content. Everyone's the sort of buzzword of virtual tours, which I'm still not a huge fan of in terms of generating revenue. It's going to be few and far between if you generate revenue with that type of thing. But as a brand awareness tool, it's fantastic. Get things out there, get people to sign up for a free webinar, virtual tour, whatever way you want to mention or name it, and get people to sign up, build up your marketing list, get people to watch that. Don't need to necessarily charge for it. Although a small charge is usually quite good. You get a better quality of customer, to be honest. But try to do stuff like that. Again, on Facebook, what we're seeing is for day tours and multi-day tour companies is we're running campaigns for people to book into 2021. And the amount of leads that we are seeing of people signing up through Facebook or through a website to get a quote or a tailor-made option. Even if you're a day tour company, have a form on there for people to inquire about, I like to take out this tour or that tour. And the inquiries we are seeing are huge. There's so much pent-up demand out there, and people just want to travel. As soon as restrictions are lifted, there is going to be an absolute influx of travel happening all over the world. So rather than trying to chase your tail when things happen, and when that does happen, is build up the groundwork first. Build up those marketing lists, build up those possible sales channels and potential customers now by offering something, by doing webinars, by asking them to book now but pay later, all these different things, that open-ended bookings and everything else. Do all these things now. That will generate lists of people that you can then market to when things do improve, and you can hit the ground running rather than chasing your tail, as I say.
I'm interested in your take on virtual tours or online experiences and sort of the future of travel. Do you envision a world in which the technology gets better, something changes or improves, and they become a real viable presence in our industry? Or do you understand them to be something that is responding most immediately to the current situation?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's just responding to what's happening. People are looking for ways to make revenue or ways to generate leads and bookings and things like that, whatever that would be. But that's not to say in the future. Some companies, forgive me, some companies I think could make some good revenue from. The Walks are doing very well with the virtual tour side of things, and a few others. Amazon has obviously came into the fold to do this as well. So there is going to be a future out there. People do see it. But again, I still see it as more of a brand awareness tool. And I think if you are a small tour operator, spending the time and money on something like that is maybe not beneficial. Now, where I have seen it work is when it's connected to a physical product. So if you're doing a beer tasting, a wine tasting, that type of thing, the product getting sent out to the customer and then doing the virtual experience as they're tasting it. Yeah, fantastic. That's more of an added experience onto an existing product. That's where I see something like that working very well. But in the future, yeah, no, I can see it being bigger. No, there will always be the need for being in a real place and experiencing something and being able to touch something and everything else firsthand. But as technology grows, we've had VR for years now, although it's not really, the headsets are still expensive. It's still quite cumbersome to wear, but that technology will get better through time. And then once that happens, that's when you'll see more virtual tours, and it'll be more of an inspirational piece. Again, just to inspire people to then go and visit an actual destination for real. And then you've got the autonomous vehicles and AI tours and everything else that's coming. So digital is coming, and people need to realize that and wake up a little bit to say, it's like audio tours. I mean, audio tours was first announced. Nobody's going to take an audio tour. Why would they want to do that? And they do. It's not going to be any different from AI or virtual tours or autonomous tours. There'll be an audience for it. So
I often think that the most interesting sort of changes or evolutions in the industry are the ones with an enormous amount of naysayers. If there are too many people encouraged by it, then it's probably done or not a good idea. That's been my philosophy. Because it takes vision and seeing something, and also trial and error. One of the things that I'm most frustrated with is often when I speak with an operator or with a tour guide who thinks that a tour is set in stone or a strategy is set in stone, and they just keep doing it without that sort of iterative design theory approach to always evolving and transforming based on just creativity and trying new approaches. And what I like about, what your presence online is that you seem really interested in new ideas. Do you have sort of in a kind of near crystal ball ideas of kind of what's exciting you now as far as creative new approaches to marketing or to the industry?
Oh, good question. No, I still think, when it comes to tours and activities, especially from what I've seen with a lot of customers that we help and everything else, is we're probably still a good 5 to 10 years behind a lot of other industries, to be honest. So many operators still don't use video. No, it's such an easy tool to use these days, and can generate you such a great reach. Get your messaging out there so much quicker. And I think more operators need to use more video, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's one of the things. But in terms of the future, I do think autonomous vehicles is going to be huge. More so now because of the after effects of COVID and everything else. There's going to be a lot more private tours, a lot more smaller groups. Unfortunately, for the big bus companies, I hate to say it, I see them in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, are pretty much going the way of the dodo, as they say. And unless they convert their business to more electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, taking less people, but there'll be more of them. We're already seeing some major cities across the world not allowing big buses and tour buses into city centres and things like that as well. And there's going to be more of that. So the resale value of these vehicles, which is a big part of these companies, is going to get less and less. So it's just adapting now. People think, autonomous vehicles is going to be 10 years' time. It's already here, and it's within 2 or 3 years that you're going to see more of it. Uber are going to be coming out soon with, in fact, they've already done it with taxis that will just drive you autonomously in various cities. And so it's just looking to sort of see, okay, what's going on in the industry just now. Yeah, it might seem far away, but it's not really. And technology moves very quickly, and it's just making sure you adapt to these things. But if it's tools that's available just now, video for sure. It's hands down one of the best tools you can use. Not too many use them.
It's so funny. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we teach a live video workshop where it just takes breaking the ice on using these technologies and starting to dive in and practice them, because it does seem daunting, or you look online and you see these things get created and it looks more magical than it really is, or it looks more difficult. Now, you're talking about adapting to self-driving tours and all of this. What could an operator do now to prepare or to actively participate in this evolution, rather than just saying, okay, no, it's coming, I'm ready. What can you do now to evolve your business?
Yeah, so there's some tools out there now that people can use to start planning for this sort of thing going ahead. A lot of people don't realize, whether it's autonomous vehicles or AI tours, is they think it's going to take over their jobs or over their tours and everything else, and that's not really going to be the case. If anything, it's going to enhance the experience of being with a live tour guide. I see the autonomous side of things as more of an enhancement to them. It's an extra revenue stream for operators. Well, you still have your face-to-face tours, which you can then up your price because you have this cheaper option that people can take, that it's essentially an audio tour, or you can have the sort of more physical one. And there's tools out there. Like I mentioned, Alex Bainbridge. Again, he's created a platform which deals with just this, AI tours and autonomous vehicles. I know he's the godfather of creating online bookings. He pretty much invented what we're all doing just now. And everyone thought he was mad then, and look what happened to the industry. And people think he's mad now with autonomous vehicles. I guarantee you, if Alex is working on something and sees something happening, it will happen.
My theory is that Alex is mad. He just happens to also be right.
Yeah. He usually is.
No, it's interesting, if only because you can you can understand that that's maybe a couple of years down the road, but at the same time, understand the power of just thinking new thoughts about integrating technology and different platforms and extending, as you called it, the customer journey, using self-guided mobile apps to upsell at the end of a tour, to extend your presence in a guest's journey while they're in destination, using a virtual Zoom tour to for customer retention or brand awareness in the off season. All of that to me seems easy steps to at least play with right now. Now, let me ask you this as we kind of wrap up here. What, in your opinion, is some of the criteria that an operator should use to determine the moment when it's time to grow up and hire a marketing agency? Because I would say there's a large group of people who are just beginning and aren't ready for the investment. When is the right time?
As soon as possible, to really be honest. And I'm not just saying this because I run an agency. It's very much like when you start up in business, in my opinion, every person should have a business coach. It helps massively when you grow your business. I've used the same business coach for nearly 10 years. Someone you can sound off to, get angry at if things don't go your well, or bounce ideas off of. Running a business, as you know yourself, it can be a lonely experience if someone's not went through this whole process. So starting, look at what you can do in your business, look at what you're good at. Yes, learn a bit of marketing and do it yourself initially if you have to. But what I tend to find is people will spend lots of money on websites or lots of money on vehicles for their business and all the things that make them feel good, when you actually, if you spend a bit more of that budget on your actual marketing to attract your customers, you're creating a business not to make it attractive for you personally, but make it attractive for the customers you're trying to bring in a sense. So it's just making sure you're spending your budget in the right way, and you keep enough budget for marketing, whether you're doing it yourself or for an agency. But ultimately, if you're finding it you've not got the time to do your own marketing, you're finding it harder and harder, or maybe you're just not creative enough. No, that does happen as well. That's when to maybe look at an agency. And agencies don't need to, obviously there's expensive ones out there, but agencies don't need to be expensive. No, we help startup companies all the way through to corporates. So it just really depends on, shop around, see who can help you. If you're really struggling, go into Fiverr, go into people.com or whatever. There's plenty of platforms out there that will, your own thing, TripSchool as well. There's plenty of platforms out there that will teach you, or you can go to for very little money. I did a video recently to sort of show you how to create an online video sort of promotion for your business, and it costs $30. No, you don't need to spend lots of money. It's just a little bit of time, a little bit of know-how to do these things. So do what you can, and then when you find you've not got the time to do it, you shouldn't really stop marketing. Even during a crisis, you should not stop marketing. That's when to start maybe think about hiring someone.
You mentioned a business coach. What are some of the lessons, or a lesson that you've learned over the years of just running your own business at TMA, especially as kind of a self-starter and a learner? Is there a hard-earned lesson that you advise people to learn sooner rather than later?
It's different for each individual, to be honest. You learn by your mistakes. You learn with what's happening in the business, what's happening in the industry, yes, and you can learn from others to help you not make the same mistakes and everything else as well. And a business coach will just help you understand your finances. Hate to say the amount of operators that I've helped and spoke to who don't understand the finance side of things, about making an actual profit and what they're doing, and they're focused maybe on the revenue, but instead of the profit. Just having a business coach can help you do these sort of things. My business coach, we have what we call a crystal ball, which is literally just a spreadsheet with all our outgoings, all our incomings, what we're spending every single month. I can see 2 years ahead of what my cash flow is going to be like. And then you can play about with that sheet to say, okay, if I hire someone, I'll drop them in here. If I make a sale, I'll drop them in here. If I lose a sale, I'll take this out here. And it lets you see what the figures will happen over a given month or whatever that would be. And it's just little things like that a business coach can help you just refocus your mind, and looking at other avenues for your business in terms of products and services and that type of thing, to say, okay, should we try this? Should we try that? Or what should we do? And like I say, just having someone to talk to is great. So, but don't be scared to try things. You are going to make mistakes. Yeah, but that's what you learn from. And if sometimes someone's mistake could work for someone else and maybe not work for them. So it's just learning from it, adapting, and trying different things. Don't be scared to try different things, and keep at it. Don't stop too soon. No, again, no, doing things like video, people or content, you see time and time again, they'll maybe do it for 2 or 3 months. They think I'm not really getting anything from this, then they'll stop. No, it took me 18 months for my stuff to really take hold, and it can take a long time for your content to really take hold. So it's all about building up that trust. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's just keeping at it, really. So.
Yeah, in sort of my perspective from the students that we work with or the early stage operators, there's often a lot of internalizing of your problems and your drama, and you keep it bottled up in your head instead of asking for help, just going out there and saying, I need a hand, being vulnerable. And I encourage everybody to use the forums like your digital marketing tourism show forum and Tourpreneur and some of these places to even just make sure you're getting those thoughts and those fears and those anxieties out of your head, because they're often the most universal feelings in this industry. We're all feeling it. You and I running businesses, everyone's in the same boat. It's the curse and the blessing of being an entrepreneur.
No, for sure. No, and just on your point there, what COVID has highlighted is the amount of people and the amount of businesses who want to help each other. No, people who you consider rivals or whatever that would be. No, everyone has pulled together to try and make sure that their businesses, our own businesses, and this industry survives as a whole. And it's been so heartwarming to see, to be honest. And don't get me wrong, there's been some heartbreaking stories throughout this whole time as well. But seeing the industry come together has been amazing, and it's why I love working in the tours and activities sector.
Absolutely. Well, that seems like a heartwarming note to end on. So I think we'll leave it at that and just say a huge thank you, Chris, for joining us and for giving us a little insight into TMA and into yourself and your love of Japan and your love of figurines as well. If I'm not mistaken, I've watched a lot of videos that have some pretty busy backgrounds going on. What's the story with all of that?
I'm a bit of a film geek. I collect film memorabilia, so I have quite a lot of toys and signatures, autographs, and various other things in my man cave or office, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I've got lots of Star Wars figures and figures from other films and all these other things. So yeah, I've just always loved toys and film memorabilia ever since I've been a kid, and I've just never really stopped collecting them. So.
I love it. I love it. All right, Chris the Kid. Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me along.